Hi, welcome back. I'm Alaina. By the end of this video, I'll show you how to improve your communication skills as a leader to increase your productivity and profitability in your business. So stay tuned. I'm going to uncover the key benefits of improving your communication skills with your team and in your business. Next, I'm going to reveal what you can be doing right now to improve your ability to communicate effectively. And even if you just did a few of these things, how much it will take your leadership to the next level. By the end of this video, I'll show you how to inspire your team and rock it out as a leader so that you can be the most effective leader that you really are. Good communication inspires trust and positive change. It is one of the most effective things, one of the most effective skills that you can really gain and hone as a leader. Now, one of the things that it requires is actually self-awareness and practice. I have a kind of funny story that dates back many years when I was a lawyer, and I actually started working with somebody about being a more effective communicator. And I was a total people pleaser, and I really had difficulty standing my ground and being an effective communicator because of it, which is so funny now when I look at myself because I'm not that anymore. People say, oh, you have really healthy boundaries, but I used to allow my boundaries to get stepped on a lot. And this person who was teaching me this said, okay, you need to practice. And it was so awkward. She actually said to me, I lived in New York City. She's like, well, why don't you yell at cab drivers? And I was like, yell at cab drivers? Like those poor cab drivers. I don't want to yell at cab drivers. But she was trying to get me to use my voice effectively because I was swallowing my voice all the time. And while I didn't yell at cab drivers, it did allow me to understand what I needed to do to really be able to project my confidence and leadership, and it really allowed me to shift into a much more effective leader and communicator as a result. One of the things that improving great communication does is it actually allows for far greater collaboration in your business. There are times, and I have seen this in organizations I've worked with, I've seen this with my clients and their teams, when people are afraid to bring what they want to, let's say, for example, you have a meeting and people want to weigh in on ideas. If they are actually afraid to do that because there isn't an effective vehicle for them to be able to do that, it's actually going to stifle innovation. And what you want is people bringing their best ideas. Ultimately, even if you don't take their ideas, you want your people bringing the best ideas that they can and want to feel like there's a safe space for this. And understanding how to effectively communicate better will allow that collaboration amongst your team. The other thing that it does is that your team members will actually feel like they can trust you and feel safe to come to you with issues or with questions. If they don't feel like they have that trust, if they don't feel like they're going to be received well, then they will hold it. And what happens when people hold stuff that they have is it creates resentment. Like they call it like quiet quitting, right? Ultimately, that's what happens is people feel like, why bother? I'm just going to do the bare minimum and show up because I can't really bring myself to this, experience in this job. But when they trust you, then they get to bring everything to you, and it allows for greater problem solving. So many people think that they tell their team members clearly their roles and responsibilities, but I can tell you most people are not being as clear as they think they are. And so one of the things that great communication does is it allows people to really have clarity on their roles and responsibilities. As I said, it allows for greater productivity, and now team members will be focused on the outcomes. When you can really generate self-interest, self-motivation by allowing for the culture of communication, then it generates far greater focus on team outcomes and allows you to achieve those outcomes so much sooner. Now, I'm going to give you 15 ways that you can be a more effective communicator. And that might feel incredibly overwhelming, but what I can tell you is that if you just tried one or two of these out at a time and started working on one or two at a time, it will make a massive difference in your organization and your leadership. And then once you feel like you've really gotten a handle on those one or two, then add another one or two and keep building on it till you feel like that fluidity, that comfort, so that you don't have to go yell at cab drivers. Authenticity is actually a really big deal. So be more you, right? Be the youest you can, but do it in a kind and respectful way. And people really, they can just feel the authenticity and they gravitate towards that. It engenders much more trust as a result. The second one is to find ways to interact with your team so that you're visible, whether that's in person or just a virtual open door policy. Now, for me, that doesn't mean you can contact me anytime, any time of day or night. Like, I like to do focus blocks during these times. My door's closed essentially, but then a lot of other times my door's open, and then you can come to me with any issues you have. So make sure you have an open door policy, whether it's virtual or not. And again, you can put parameters around that, but it really creates visibility so people can actually connect with you more. Listen to understand. This is number 3. Listen to understand before being understood. Oftentimes when we're communicating, we want to be understood by the other person. When you're a leader, it's clear to understand the other person first before seeking to be understood, and that requires active listening. And it's a skill you have to develop. We're so accustomed. As you're speaking, I'm already thinking about what I'm going to say in response to you. It requires to be really present so that you can pause what you're thinking to really hear the other person, or else you're not actively listening. Communicate often, open, and transparent. I might even say over-communicate. And what do I mean by that? In a sense, when I told you before that most people think that they're being clear, telling people roles and responsibilities, but it's not actually clear to the person. So when you have a project, you can communicate it in a variety of different ways and then even ask for feedback to make sure it's understood. So really be able to convey clarity with your communication and over-communicate what you want to communicate. Now, you may have people who feel annoyed by that level of communication. I know people like that where they're like, I already got it. I don't need to hear more of that. So as you're communicating it the first time, you can ask for feedback to make sure that person understands. And once you know that person has understood, then you can stop right there and you don't need to keep going. But the point is to make sure that the other person really understands what you've conveyed, because effective communication is only effective if it lands for the recipient. If it doesn't land for the recipient, it isn't effective communication. So you can check in on the first go-round and make sure it landed, and then you don't have to keep going on about it. Now, here's the other thing. People tend to have a lot of expectation of their team members, right? And the key is what I always say is that agreements are far more effective than expectations. Nobody likes expectations on them. That doesn't feel really good. And if people don't meet your expectations, then there's a range of feelings from disappointment to betrayal that people tend to feel when people haven't met their expectations. This doesn't matter whether it's personal or professional, but in this case, I'm talking about you as a leader of your team. So what I suggest is agreements. So I'm going to say, okay, here's the things that I would like from you, lay them out, and then get the other person to make sure they're clear on what they are and get the other person to agree to it. Now, somebody is far more likely to ensure that they meet the agreement that they've said yes to than when people have expectations of them. So I really love to talk about how to be a better leader, how to cultivate amazing culture, how to create incredible A-player teams. And so make sure you like and subscribe so that you can learn how to be a more effective leader in your business as I drop new content. Okay, so now let's get back into the ways to be a more effective communicator. One of the ways to be a more effective communicator is through examples and stories. Stories and examples from our ancestors really landed. It was the way that we conveyed oral history at a certain point of time, and it really makes sense. It helps really embody what you're trying to convey, especially when you're talking about your vision. When you're talking about what the vision of the business is, being able to convey stories and examples really allows that to land for the recipient. Here's another one that might be challenging, which is say what you mean and mean what you say. Right? This goes back to really cultivating your voice in clarity about having clear boundaries, because there is nothing, no matter how difficult the conversation, that can't be conveyed with respect and with compassion. So make sure that you're saying what you mean and you're meaning what you say. Now also know your audience and be able to read your room. So the kinds of conversations that you would have with your partner are obviously going to be different than the kinds of conversations you have with your team. So really understand, and as you learn your team members, some of them may require different styles of communication. And understanding what those styles are. Do they need more stories? Do they need more support? Do they not respond well to tough love? Like really understanding, or do they need tough love in fact? And really understanding that will allow you to be a much more effective communicator. The next one is to ask open-ended questions. It allows you to really uncover so much juiciness in the process. Yes or no questions don't really get to the root of it. And when you ask yes or no questions, it allows your team members to take those questions and really expand upon them, and you will learn so much more as a result. It will allow you to get to the heart of the matter and also open up tons of insights. Here's another one that for some people takes practice to really learn how to do it gracefully, which is ask for honest feedback, but then take it. Don't ask for honest feedback and then don't incorporate it. Have a dialogue about the honest feedback. What does this really mean? Why is this coming up? What is happening here? And how can you incorporate that into the ultimate plan so that that person feels seen and heard and that they made a difference in the organization based on what they felt was really important? The next one is to use nonverbal communication skills. One of the key ones is eye contact. Now, this might be hard if it's a virtual team, but you can still give eye contact on Zoom and be looking at people. Eye contact lets people know you're actually seeing them and paying attention to them. So use those nonverbal communication skills. Now, before I mentioned to take the feedback, once you synthesize that feedback into the plan, then make sure you revisit with them again to get their understanding and buy-in before you actually put that plan into action. So you've taken their feedback, you synthesize it in the plan, now you're bringing it to your team again and getting like another round of feedback, and essentially you're enrolling them in the outcome of creating this plan. The next one is be willing to have and even initiate difficult conversations. Now, I actually firmly believe that there's no difficult conversation when you're an effective communicator, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a fear that it's going to be a difficult conversation. There's a fear, how will that person react? Will they take it personally? Will this create conflict? The more effective you are as a communicator, the less those issues actually happen in your business because you understand how to take a difficult topic and break it down so that it's not so difficult and it's not personal. Right? That is really the key when you focus on a facts-based conversation. And what does that mean, a facts-based conversation? Okay, so-and-so was supposed to do XYZ by yesterday. They didn't do it. And if you go to them and say, hey, you were supposed to do XYZ yesterday and it didn't get done, that's going to create a defensiveness in that person. But if you go to them and you say, hey, XYZ wasn't done yesterday, what happened, now it allows for an open-ended conversation, and especially if you're not emotionally charged, if you're pissed off when you're having that conversation, don't have the conversation. Wait till you're emotionally regulated so that you can have that conversation without emotional reactivity, and then it allows for you to have those difficult conversations far easier. And the last one that really makes all those others so much easier is become more self-aware by personal development. I cannot tell you how many leaders I see who are really reactive because they're not doing their own work. And what's really happening, this is going to sound crazy, but it's really true, what's really happening in their business, they've essentially hired team to reproduce those same patterns that they've had maybe with familial family members in their past that keep repeating those same cycles of limiting beliefs over and over again. And they don't realize that they're in this same cycle. So it's like, man, why do I keep hiring people who keep doing X, Y, Z? It's because they're trying to show you you've still got this issue that you haven't dealt with. And once you deal with that issue, then that issue in your team goes away, or you stop hiring people who have that pattern. And so by doing personal development, it allows you to clear up so much of the other stuff that creates dysfunctional and ineffective teams and makes effective communication so much harder to begin with. So in this video, we talked about how to be a more effective communicator as a leader. If you want to become a more effective leader so you can really attract and retain A-team players, then check out my video on how can a leader influence a team to become top performing. So check it out below. Thanks, I'm Alaina, and I'll see you in the next video.